What's going on, guys? I'm Cash with CashedOutBoards, and in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to wax your skis or snowboards for the cheapest way possible. Let's get started. So this video is basically going to focus on cheaper alternatives to expensive ski wax and expensive tuning tools. So the first thing that you're going to need to wax your board for cheap is obviously wax. And I just use canning wax. This is paraffin canning wax that's white. And it doesn't last quite as long as a ski wax, but it does do the job and it makes the board faster. And it's also great for storing your boards, like over the summer or something, if you want to get a coat of wax on there and not use your high dollar race wax or more expensive ski specific wax. So paraffin wax is the wax that I use, and it's really cheap, only a couple of bucks for a pound, which is a lot cheaper than a normal ski wax. And the next thing is the iron that you use to wax your skis or board. I use just an old clothes iron, which does have holes in the bottom, so you have to be careful and you have to only use it for wax, which is why I have this labeled only wax. But these are a great cheap alternative to a ski iron that you would have to buy, because you could pick one of these up at a thrift store, or if you're getting a new iron, just use your old one for wax. And then after that, for a scraper to scrape the wax off after it's on, I just have a little piece of hard plastic here which I use, which works great. I have an old pet brush that I use to kind of buff the board down after it's waxed and after the wax is scraped off, which also works great. And then for the final buff, I just use an old t-shirt and rub the board down, and it'll get it to a nice shine and ready to go. So now I'll show you how I do this. So the first thing to do when waxing your board is obviously get the wax on your board. And to do this, I like to take my block of wax and just put it on the iron and find a place where it'll drip down off of a point, like the end here. And if you do it like this, it won't go in the holes, and you'll also get a nice predictable drip pattern. So once it's dripping on there, I like to just do a little bit of a zigzag down the board and make it so I'll be able to easily spread it after and get good coverage. And then the next thing to do after you have really good coverage with your drips pretty evenly over your whole board, you want to get your iron ready again, and this time you're going to go flat across the whole board and just melt the wax so it turns into a really thin layer and it creates a thin film. And you want to just work over your whole board and melt the wax in and get your base nice and hot so the wax soaks in. And then while you're doing this, you do want to be careful that you don't have your heat too high, that you melt your base or damage it in any way. So basically, you'll want to be on one of the lowest settings on your iron if it's a normal clothes iron, and then you'll be good. And while you do this, you pretty much want to make sure that there's a thin layer of wax over every part of the base. So just work the wax back and forth until you're pretty sure that the whole entire base is covered. And then once your wax is all applied all over the whole base, you're going to want to let it sit for a little bit and cool down and harden back up. And then you want to take your scraper and start scraping off the wax. And to do this, basically all you have to do is push down a little bit and push forward, and you'll get these nice curls. And that means you're taking off the wax nicely. And you just have to do this over the whole entire board. It is a good idea while waxing to wear some crappy clothes that you don't really care about, and do this in an area that you don't mind getting dirty, because this wax does tend to go everywhere. And then once your wax is all scraped off your board with the scraper, you're going to want to take your bristle brush and rub it along the board in the direction that you're going to be traveling, so from tip to tail. And basically what this is doing is evening out the surface even more and taking off a little bit of excess wax. And it's best to use a brush with some firmer bristles, so that way it actually digs into the wax a little bit. Because if you have a brush with bristles that are too soft, it won't actually do anything. So definitely try to find one with firmer bristles. Once you used your brush on the base of your board or your skis, the final thing to do is to grab a rag and to just buff it down, once again going tip to tail. And what this is doing is it's making the surface even smoother, and it's taking off any little bits of wax that are left over. So basically just buff down the whole surface and then you're done. that's it for this video. I hope you guys found it helpful and learned something from this about waxing boards. Like I said, this kind of cheap wax is great for learning how to wax or waxing cheap boards or waxing good boards to store them. And if you do that, just get the layer of wax on there and leave it over the summer, and then scrape it off and buff it down next winter, and you'll be good to go. So with all that said, thank you so much for watching, and subscribe for more.